here for you.
Hi, my dearest family. So today we are going to be looking at Jupiter in Cancer. I'm going to be giving you a general overview. Most likely it's going to be approximately about a good 45 minutes. And then I will be breaking this down for all 12 signs as well. So what you will hear in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you the general meanings of Jupiter in Cancer. I'm going to be giving you clues about why Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. How can Jupiter bring you luck? And how this might be affecting the world. And obviously, we are going to be touching base on certain type of aspects as well that we can see in the Jupiter ingression chart. And one of the aspects that will be involved is a square to an asteroid called Arachne, which is in the sign of Libra on 0 degree. And then we've got Orpheus on 0 degree of Aries, which has got a conjunction to Saturn. So that's what I will be breaking down for you. So stay till the very end. Please listen to the beginning of the video, because it's going to give you a lot of knowledge around what is this Jupiter in the sign of Cancer about. Okay. So first of all, Jupiter is the planet of growth. Um, it's representation of higher learnings, travels, philosophies, belief systems, and then it moves into its exalted sign. And traditionally speaking, exaltation indicates that this is great, this is super good, and it can be actually super good, but there are work to be done. And that's super important. So first of all, what is exaltation? I mean, there are different type of dignities for the planets. There are signs that are ruled by planets. We call it as domicile position or rulership. But also a planet can be in detriment or fall as well. It means that it acts like a jail. The freedom of expression of the planet is limited, but definitely gives you the idea to think your life through though. And then when we've got a planet in exaltation, then it's kind of like being in the wild, running free. The planetary energy is elevated. You are able to see the world. And then it actually gives the planet the idea, resources to accomplish something great. But the energies must be used well. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Now, Jupiter is actually, according to traditional astrology, it's exalted exactly on the 15th degree of Cancer. So that would be between 14 to 15. Now, why is Jupiter exalted in the sign of Cancer? First of all, Jupiter represents growth and the traditional ruler of children. And Cancer represents water, and water gives life. Even if you think of a baby, the baby is surrounded in the womb with water. So, first of all, obviously, there is something in common between Jupiter and Cancer here, right? We need water for the environment to survive. So, from this perspective, it can indicate that the government, because we've got a Saturn square to it, are going to be working extremely hard in certain countries to try to increase the population. And that could be happening by prompting people to get pregnant. So, for example, imagine that they are going to be given housing benefits. Jupiter in Cancer, housing. And Saturn is the planet of benefits. Benefits, as in like these governmental benefits that you receive. But also, it can indicate that overpopulation can become a major topic in the world. Now, the third meaning possibly is that water, as in a topic from an environmental pollution point of view, is going to become a major topic. And of course, with Saturn, there might be governmental decisions about how to clean the water, whether we are drinking clean water or not, and so forth. I think this is potentially a topic because when Jupiter enters the sign of Cancer, it is going to be squaring Saturn. But also, we do have got Ceres there as well. Well, Ceres is on 7 degree of Aries, by the way, but Ceres is about seasonal changes. So it's highly possible that we are going to be seeing a kind of a messed up weather condition, and therefore it could represent floods that might be coming. And that is also very much the case with Saturn and Neptune conjunctions. Kind of like, water has got a tremendous amount of power. That's the biggest damaging factor out of all the elements. And with Saturn, which is destroying things, and then Neptune is a lot of water. Now Jupiter is magnifying that. So I think floods are expected, unfortunately. Now, moving forward, Jupiter is the planet of wisdom, and Cancer represents parents. So also this represents that we get our initial wisdom from the parents. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes those wisdoms are rubbish. So I think there is an invitation here, the square between Jupiter and Saturn, to kind of make peace with the past as well as having to kind of clear our ancestral karma. Now, Saturn represents family legacy. So we're going to have to look into the mirror and see how the individuality is blocked by the family legacy. What is getting passed down from generation to generation? And why are we not being able to grow? And that would be Jupiter. Now, Cancer is a water sign, which represents emotions, and Jupiter is the planet of intelligence. So this is together is about emotional intelligence. This is about wanting to give emotional support as well as receiving, emotional support from others. And there is going to be a need for that. But in order for us to get emotional support, I think we're going to have to be able to understand how others feel. But I mean, Jupiter has got, by the way, wet qualities as well. So it's a hot and wet planet. So that wet energy really goes well with the Cancerian part. And therefore, the message there that we're going to have to understand, place ourselves in other people's shoes as well. And this is where the challenge again comes with the Saturn in the sign of Aries. Because Saturn in Aries is about having to block out the egotism. And Aries is often unable to do that. Neptune is trying to dissolve the ego as well. Saturn just kind of trying to take that down a notch. And Aries might be fighting against all of that. Now, of course, when we look at the dispositor of all that Aries energy, what we've got, well, you will see that we've got a Mars in Leo, which is bang on opposing Pallas Athene stationary. I highly recommend listening to a video that I made about Jupiter and Mercury conjunction on 29 degree because I broke down the Pallas Athene and Mars opposition in depth. So I don't want to go into that right now. But that is definitely a battle plan. That is definitely about kind of like having to reason with our ego and the intelligence are somehow clashing here. And Jupiter can magnify all those. Jupiter is the higher knowledge. It's the planet of spirituality. It represents the sky. And Cancer is the feelings. So this is about having to be able to connect with our empathetic side as well. We cannot just be egotistical and chase our dreams all the time. And that's the Aries part of your chart with that Saturn. Now, Jupiter is about philosophy. Cancer represents the origin. So, what is the origin of our belief system? And the family feeds you, raises you, teaches you, and so forth, especially at the beginning of your life. And then you are sharing your learned experiences with others. So, therefore, there is a projection here. And Saturn in the sign of Aries is about in a way, being unable to express ourselves. So we are unable to express our emotional side due to all the limitations that we had experienced before. And uh, and also, in a way, Jupiter is education. So you're gonna have to learn how to express those emotions. Now, Cancer is a protective sign, and Jupiter represents the children. So it's kind of like I have to be protecting my children. I have to be protecting my home country. And that's why we are coming up with all these ideas and philosophy and religious matters as well. Now, Jupiter does represent religion, and Cancer represents the past, the home country, and something to do with family traditions. So it looks like that family related traditions are going to be pretty big. When we learn in the family how to give and receive, I would say that we are in balance in our relationships. And when we are unable to do such thing, then unfortunately it indicates that we are going to be just going after what we need. I think Cancer also represents love, and Jupiter is abundance. So the experience of love from family will help us benefit from future connections. I mean, just think about a baby. A baby is small, tiny. The baby is unable to protect itself. So we take something small, we nurture it, we teach it, and then it becomes a grown-up individual. I think this is a huge message with this Jupiter and Saturn square because Aries is a toddler type of energy. So it does say with Saturn that we're gonna have to grow up. We're gonna talk about Saturn in the sign of Aries as well today because, of course, we have to, right? So, but also Cancer is the summer solstice. That's the longest day of the year. That's the peak of the season. And Jupiter is kind of like the arrow that lands somewhere. Jupiter is not afraid of the place. It's just going after the arrow. So what it kind of like indicates to me is that in Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, often we need a lot of kind of like encouragement, especially the support, right, by others and friends and family to be able to get going. It's like, when the child is trying to go on their bicycle and then, they need help at the beginning, but then after they soar free. And with Saturn in the sign of Aries, we can feel like that I'm not receiving that support. I'm alone. I have to carry this burden all alone. And that's another challenge here. And often, obviously, if we have got this encouraging parent who will want you to learn from your own experiences, that's also important because with Jupiter in Cancer, we can become a suffocating mom. We don't know how to slice a tomato. Someone else has to do it. And Saturn in the sign of Aries now says that we're gonna have to be able to do things on our own as well. So it is on both ends as well, of course. Now, Cancer is a teacher archetype as well, by the way, especially for nursery schools and kindergartens. It's kind of like a caretaker. So Jupiter is also a teacher archetype. So this is the ultimate teacher archetype. This could really talk to me about that the primary school system and the kindergarten system will change potentially in the next 1 year. Also think about how the family religion and principles potentially blocking you from being who you are. And there is somehow, because there is this sense of belonging with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, but potentially with Saturn in Aries, we might not be able to kind of like express our individuality because that family religion and principle is pretty much of a burden for us. I think Jupiter, who wants to find meaning to life, in the sign of Cancer, it says that we're going to start finding meaning to life when we allow our hearts to stay open to grace. And that's why Saturn in the sign of Aries wants to block things out. In a ways, Jupiter in Cancer also indicates to me that the family is sacred. We can have that type of belief system here. A child doesn't necessarily question whether the parent is right or wrong. They just follow the parents blindly. So, in a way, Saturn square in the sign of Aries can also tell you to wake up and then follow your own road. You don't need to be blindly following people because maybe you don't want to get rejected and so forth, right? And then if we decided not to follow the path of the parents, not following the principle of the family, then potentially we kept it as a secret back in the days. I mean, Cancer is the midnight energy, it's the dark, the taboo, right? So these are things that we don't want to talk about. These are belief systems that we might potentially not want to talk about. Saturn in the sign of Aries tries to give you the courage to speak about it. I mean, wherever Jupiter is, um, it wants to expand your horizon. Jupiter is the planet of opportunities. It tries to make you as large as possible. It prompts you to become confident, better, and bigger. And Cancer is happiness. So this is on one hand, it indicates that you need to be opening up the channels towards happiness. The opportunities are coming from the family. The opportunities are coming from finding inner peace and happiness. But the growing happens through experiences and learning. Cancer says reflection, self-knowing. It is not rigid, it's pretty fluid. So the ultimate goal here is to find inner happiness that leads us to beautiful experiences in life. And Saturn is about my freedom is restricted in the sign of Aries. That's why we might be called upon finding that freedom, that inner peace somehow. Jupiter in Cancer is very helpful. Helping others gives them happiness. Now, Saturn in Aries says, okay, but you have to be able to help yourself too. You cannot just give everything away to others. But also remember, Cancer is a cardinal sign, so it goes after something, it initiates, it's a little bit fiery, there is a little bit fire there. So it says that there is an ideal place out there, and we can find it. And Jupiter is, of course, giving you the opportunity for all that. Now, Jupiter rules two signs, right? Pisces and Sagittarius. So, first of all, um, when Jupiter is exalted, we are expecting goods to come around. And because Cancer is cardinal, it knows that mutual nourishment is important. So this is about giving knowledge to others, and I will receive something back in return. So with Jupiter being the planet that shares, it's very important to share our feelings. I mean, Cancer, for example, breast and uterus. I mean, we give life with those, right? And then we receive help from our children once we grow old. And it's interesting actually that the very last time Jupiter was in the sign of Cancer, for example, Hungary came out with a law that the children must take care of their parents when they are unable to work and so forth, because the government is not going to be doing that. So I'm also wondering whether the retirement, as in topic, is going to pop up here as a question, of course. And Jupiter, whatever it touches, it grows it. And Cancer is the baby. So the baby grows within the mother at first, at the beginning. And the mom might have got hardship to connect, to make a bond with the child, which usually comes naturally to many of us, but some of us are just unable to make that bond immediately. So this is telling us that we're gonna have to be able to make emotional connections with others, no matter how hard it is. We're gonna have to be able to reveal something about ourselves. Cancer is about your needs. Jupiter is learning. So you're going to have to be able to learn what your needs are and what the needs of others, and then kind of like creating harmony there. Also, Cancer represents, again, children, right? So hunger. We need to be hungry for knowledge. It is kind of like we have to study. That's going to take us further. We need to be ready to gain more knowledge. Cancer is selfless love, just like a mom loves the child. And Jupiter is generosity. So it's about abundant love for my chosen family, for my family or people that I live together with. And Saturn in the sign of Aries, in a way, does talk to us about love as well. But Saturn in Aries also says that it all starts with being able to love the self as well. Now, Jupiter is the traveler and Cancer is the home environment. I mean, if you look at Sagittarius and Cancer, they have got an in conjunction. So we might believe that moving around a lot, because we are looking for something and we are trying to find the meaning to life. So we are changing countries. But Saturn, as the rules, restrictions, it can bring up certain type of travel restrictions, to be frank. Let's see how that works out. Jupiter looks forward and Cancer looks backwards. So living in the past versus moving forward, and then with Saturn squaring Jupiter could potentially indicate that we have got a tendency to live in the past. But Aries is also a future forward sign as well. So comparing the past with the present, I think many of us will kind of like do that. However, Jupiter would always like to have experiences outside of the family. And Cancer wants to be united with family members. It wants to be living under the same roof with them. So again, can I leave my family behind and go after my own needs and wants and desires, Saturn in the sign of Aries? Or do I need to stick around because I have to be a caregiver? It looks like we have to make a decision about it. Jupiter is the laughter, and Cancer is more of a crier. So there are situations here which is going to make me laugh, but also at the same time, I don't even know whether to cry or laugh at it. So it could be something that is actually weird. The other funny part about Jupiter in Cancer is that Cancer is the deepest part of your chart. That's the midnight energy, and Jupiter represents the sky. So it also says that the skies are limitless, but we're going to have to heal the past. Also, think about what is the largest element of Earth? That's water. 60% of the Earth is water. What is the largest planet in the solar system? That's Jupiter. So Jupiter in Cancer is super big. This is the larger than life type of lifestyle. This could indicate that we are going to be reaching out for more knowledge about health, the body, the family, the psychological part of things. Potentially, many of us wants to find the ideal home, but we're gonna run into some restrictions. Potentially, because of I can imagine a war happening somewhere with Aries, and then many people will leave, and then they are going to be, let's say, in Europe or in America or whatever the scenario is. And Saturn, as the politician, is going to say that, oh, hold on a minute, we're going to have to block this out. We're going to have to stop it because we are overwhelmed. So these are some of the considerations why Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. But at the same time, this is also, what the difficulties are with Jupiter in Cancer, because as you can see, there are also some type of stuff that the two energies don't necessarily agree with. But both energies about nurture and growth. And if we are able to focus on that nurturing and growth, and then somehow we are able to kind of not focus on the self-imposed limitations. Because often the problem with Saturn in the sign of Aries is that Jupiter kind of like, imagines that, yeah, there is the possibility to grow. But then Saturn in Aries, oh, you know what? I'm never gonna get what I want. It's a little bit the poor me type of scenario. But it actually teaches you to go out and then find that opportunity in life, find that happiness, and stop whining. Or often Saturn in the sign of Aries is that I cannot get bothered. What's the point in me working so hard when it's not going to lead to any type of growth or money, basically? So we just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming, and basically we are not doing anything about it. Or with Saturn in Aries, Aries is the sign of starting something, and then Saturn is the blockage. Oh, it's super hard to get going. I want to lose weight. For example, Jupiter in Cancer can really enlarge the body, by the way, and many of us can start putting on weight. And Saturn in Aries says the fittest survive. So, but it's so hard to go on a diet. I feel passionate about it, or actually I'm lacking the passion. Ah, yeah, getting up so early, it's so hot. We come up with excuses. And Jupiter represents excuses as well. So, what I think Jupiter in Cancer might says, especially because Jupiter will be trining Lilith asteroid in the sign of Pisces, that we're gonna have to imagine what that freedom is gonna look like. How am I gonna look like, for example, if I go on a diet and so forth? And then also with Saturn in the sign of Aries is like, I have to finish it because I started something. But then, of course, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is craving for emotional connections. But I've started this project. I have to finish it. I have to keep going until the finish line comes around and I have to be able to cross it. I even have to win. I think it's super important that you're going to start telling yourself that I've got all the skills, strength that I need to be able to finish, to start fresh, to start a new life. And I'm going to grow no matter what. And I'm ready to put blood, sweat, tears, and time into this. Or also, this could be telling you, though, that because Aries wants something. So if I want something, I have to work for it. I have to find that strength. And it's squaring Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. Potentially, it shows that emotionally, if we are not at the right place, then the first solution is to find the place where I used to be happy, where I can kind of like reconnect with who I am and I can express myself the way I want to, right? Also, Saturn says plan, have a goal, aim for something. And sometimes the problem with Jupiter that it aims the sky. So I feel like Cancer is actually trying to drag it down a little bit, and Saturn is trying to drag Jupiter down also, meaning that I think actually from this point of view, this square is super good because it is grounding you somehow. Other problem is with Saturn, we should be focusing on just one thing. And Jupiter burns the candle from multiple point, like both from both ends, basically. So that's could be a challenge here. Having too many ideas, too many emotions, too many ideas to choose from. And then Jupiter is like, oh, we can do all of it at the same time. And Saturn says, no, you cannot. You're gonna overwork yourself. You're gonna be overwhelmed by the lot of emotions. You cannot fix the past within one day. It's a gradual process. Also, Cancer is our emotional triggers, and Aries is also our frustration and anger. And a lot of emotions turmoil can make us super angry. Saturn says, hold on a minute, who is the boss here, the anger or you? So it feels like that you're going to have to learn Jupiter to manage Saturn, your emotional triggers, emotional Cancer, trigger, Aries. Otherwise, you are going to get consumed by frustration, what is going on in the world, by the society. And in a way, Saturn says in the sign of Aries, focus on the self. Also, you might want to be figuring out what is the motivation behind this. Why do I help others all the time? Why am I sticking around the family all the time? Why am I unable to do things on my own? You might need to redefine what success means to you. You might need to be looking at how you manage your time. Saturn in the sign of Aries is surely about self-mastery, self-discipline. And Jupiter is says, you know what? You need the knowledge to know how to get there. So work on yourself. Get your shit together. Move your body a little bit, and have experiences, potentially meet others so that the experience comes to you. I feel like often, let's talk about diet for a second, because often what we think is that diet is super difficult. Or we need to be super dedicated, super disciplined, and it means certain things has to be cut out of our life. Right? Aries, as in cutting, Saturn restriction. But it doesn't mean, Saturn is about moderation. It's about quality. Jupiter represents quantity. So this combination altogether is just telling you that we're gonna have to cut it back. We don't need to be giving up on something completely. We're just gonna have to have responsible actions. The other thing that potentially I can imagine is that because we've got these overflowing emotions, we might go extremely hard on ourselves. With Saturn in the sign of Aries, you can be your worst critic ever. And basically, feeding yourself with negative thoughts is not helpful. So you're going to have to be finding the root cause of the problem and then work that through and then feeling happy. So I think that's also a huge one. It really feels like that in order for you to be able to be the best version of yourself, we all gonna have to go back to basic and then look at where things are coming from. Saturn in Aries is self-respect, and Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is respect towards the family. You can respect both at the same time. So I kind of feel like it talks to us about forgiveness as well as in a way, which one are you going to choose? Because you cannot do both at the same time or all the time. Also, in a way, Ceres is in the sign of Aries as well, which is actually representation of self-parenting. So it also really feels like that a lot of us will have to do the self-parenting. But Jupiter in Cancer is about fertility, creation. It can actually indicate financial security can be coming through families, like opportunities to real estate properties, family-based businesses. I think that is going to be potentially where abundance could be coming from. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, the fertility matters, so children, birth, but it's about the fertility of ideas also. I think there's a lot of creative potentials here. Cancer is a healing sign, so, but also restoration too. So I would say that it looks to me that a lot of us are going through this restorative period, emotional healing, ancestral healing, finding inner peace. And it's going to start with the self. So I think a lot of countries are going to be focusing on their homeland rather than what type of connections I make. It's kind of like the national identity type of energy, the domestic issues. And with Saturn in the sign of Aries, we are going to be coming up with protective policies related to immigration, food security, or even healthcare. It doesn't mean that we are not going to be making alliances, but I do believe that certain type of alliances are about to be falling apart with this Saturn Jupiter square. Because maybe the individuality or the individual country feels disregarded, Saturn in the sign of Aries. I think there is going to be a lot of emphasis of public welfare and kind of like, with Saturn, which is the system that I started, and that needs nurturing. So it could indicate that new systems are going to be introduced, but those systems are kind of like really at the beginning of it, kind of like it's not mature enough. So we're gonna have to kind of postpone it. It's not ready to be launched yet. We're gonna have to rework it. Obviously, Saturn is gonna go retrograde. I think in July. So therefore, this is not gonna work out. Something is going to be rolled out, but it's not gonna work out immediately. As mentioned earlier, climate and water related issues are surely on the horizon. So, you know what? Maybe there is going to be a lot more water park, fancier versions are being opened, or we are focused on water resources. And the floods, natural disasters related to water is actually, unfortunately, highly possible. With Saturn, it's kind of like the undrinkable water. But Jupiter can show excess as well. So some of the excess that could come from it is being over nurturing or being super clingy. And Saturn in the sign of Aries is that where is the responsibility for the self? How long are you going to be blaming the parents for the mistakes that you made? How long are you going to be focusing or not focusing, but counting on, let's say, the government or on your family to kind of give you support? The other one is emotional overload, like being super sensitive. I mean, surely Cancer is one of the most sensitive sign of all. And then Jupiter just heightens that even more. So it brings a lot of mood swing. And it looks like Saturn is trying to kind of cut back on that. Let's just regulate the mood swings here. And even Jupiter in Cancer can represent emotional breakdowns also. So Saturn is like, calm it down, find ways to kind of restore the balance within the self. And the excessive patriotism could be another big topic here. So we are so focused on the home environment, especially in the political world, by the way, because Saturn Jupiter cycles can talk to us about political changes from a cycle point of view, as well as it could talk to you about business ventures as well, which I potentially going to be touching base on a little bit later on in this video. Or maybe it's going to be a separate video, and I'm going to come up with two parts because already I think I've been doing this video at least for an hour. And overindulgence in food and comfort could be quite a big topic as well. But with Saturn, it's kind of like I want a property for a really low price, but with all the comfort possible. Yeah, and somehow is that realistic? Is it unrealistic? And to be frank, I started seeing this. So there are people asking for a something for 100 euro in the center with near the beach and so forth. 100 euro. I mean, yeah, some people are just unrealistic. about it. And I think we're going to start seeing a little bit more of that. So, of course, this might be talking to us about financial challenges. And therefore, how I can imagine with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer that a lot of properties are going to be on the market, but there is not going to be potentially enough buyers. Or there is a lot of demand for a house to be built, but with Saturn in the sign of Aries, there are lack of tools to kind of carry out the work, lack of employees, and so forth. Potentially, we're gonna start seeing something like that. I mean, this could indicate that home style cooking is coming back into fashion. Obviously, Aries is a little bit more about healthy lifestyle. Jupiter in Cancer is about home cooking. One important thing to mention here is that even though Jupiter will be spending 1 year in the sign of Cancer, but because we've got this a square to Saturn, I would say that this is a 7 year predictions that I'm making here, and not just one. Now, a lot to digest, I believe, so far, but we've got two additional asteroids to also look at, which might be giving us different ideas. One is, so as you can see the Ingress chart on the screen, but I didn't put these two asteroids on. I just looked them up from the table. But in the Jupiter in the Ingress chart squares Arachne in Libra, which is on 0 degree, and squares Orpheus in Aries, also on 0 degree. So, of course, these are some extra interesting layers to the interpretation of Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. So let's have a look at Arachne first in Libra. Arachne, by the way, its astrological number is 407, in case you want to be looking it up. There is a lot to mention about Arachne, and I'm going to talk about Arachne a lot more in my weekly video for my members. And I'm going to be breaking down Arachne in going through a house position as well. So if you are interested in that, check my membership out. But Arachne is associated with themes of weaving, intricate patterns. It's a crafty type of energy, but also it carries envy energies as well. And also, Arachne represents the consequences of challenging authority figures or a divine power. So somehow there is a complex situation happening with Arachne. And it's kind of like when when the spider gets caught in its own web. Or when a fly, goes into the web and gets caught, and then the spider is going to basically eat it up. So Arachne in the sign of Libra, which is about balance, justice, relationship, diplomacy, partnership, contractual agreements, it somehow shows that we've got a very complex relationship here, potentially between politicians or potentially between countries. Potentially that might lead to a legal case, Libra. Or there is somehow diplomacy matters going on. Like I don't get fairly treated by this person, or you do not treat me fairly, or you break the promise type of energy. And someone potentially becomes super critical here. So, first of all, of course, there is a square here. So Jupiter wants to grow. And it wants to do good, basically. Because if I do good, that leads to certain type of growth. But Arachne overcomplicates all of these and does certain type of patterns that might remind us of being deceptive. So it can come across a bit as a liar. And of course, somehow the relationships and the topic of justice come here. So it says with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer that the luck is coming from our home country or from our family. A little bit like blood is thicker than water. And it gets challenged by a very difficult relationship that I walk into. So it's kind of like I'm having a legal battle because of the country, because of my family. So some type of power struggles that comes up with this because you are not treating me fairly. So imagine scenarios that you have got this very complex relationship situation going on, and then the family gets involved, and then it even magnifies the problem further. And I would also say that Arachne in the sign of Libra is surely about conflicts. And I'm not too happy to see Pallas Athene and Mars in an exact opposition either, which are also lacking diplomacy. So I think altogether these energies really could talk to us about that a complex situation that potentially ends up as a fight. And Arachne in Libra is a little bit about manipulation, but this entangled situation as well. So someone is genuine here, and someone is just manipulating the audience, manipulating the partner. It's kind of like a scenario where, I listen to the partner and I don't see that the family is actually just wanting good for me. So it really feels like we're going to have to be able to listen to both sides of the story. So that's the Jupiter and Arachne. Now, as mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about this more in depth in my weekly video because I feel like this is a super important square. Now, we've got Orpheus in the sign of Aries. Orpheus, also an asteroid, its astrological number is 3361. And Orpheus was a gifted musician, and Orpheus charmed everyone with its music. He was playing he was playing very beautiful music. So it represents art, music, but also kind of like persuasion or charming you into something. It is. Anyway, it also represents the underworld as well. And it also symbolizes certain type of losses and even melancholy. So if Orpheus is in the sign of Aries, which represents initiation and courage and action and pioneering energies and so forth, I would say there is somehow this aggressive and pioneering form of expression. Like when someone is telling you, do not let this happen, like whispering into your ears, do not let this happen. Like, let me play you this piece of music which is gonna encourage you to kind of fight back. And then maybe that's going to be the fight song, as in an example. So someone is compelling you to do something. So we've got a square between Jupiter and Orpheus also. And Jupiter magnifies it. So, I mean uh that gives an emotional intensity to it. So someone is forcing something onto us. So again, from a political point of view, we have got two politicians sitting down and one is forcing the other to do something. And then the other one feels like I'm getting cornered in. And what is the solution here? And I feel like obviously with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, which represents past, and also Orpheus represents grief and past issues as well. So we've got two energies that are connected to the past. So I think this is potentially something that had already happened in the past. Or this debate, argument, and so forth are connected to past actions or to past like losses, lands, properties, and so forth. So this is a very interesting. And, I mean, excess grief, excess losses also can come up with this. And of course, Orpheus makes a conjunction to Saturn. So it says, Saturn again, trying us to be cautious. It says, you know, great, express who you are. Just do that in a moderate way. Don't exaggerate. And Saturn also says that sometimes we have to lose things. That's a lesson for us. Because grief is sometimes a gift, but you cannot see that. But that's going to lead to certain type of growth later on. I mean, Orpheus was all about persuasion and seducing someone. And Saturn says, okay, but this is a serious business. And in the sign of Aries, we are kind of direct about it. And I also feel like because Orpheus is creativity and Saturn is the fear, we feel somehow blocked here. So all together, we've got a T-square. And Jupiter is the apex of that. Obviously, Jupiter squares Arachne, Orpheus, and Saturn. So Jupiter is the solution here. That's why we spend a lot of time kind of like exploring the meaning of Jupiter. And Jupiter needs to learn to bring structure, responsibility, and in a way, tangible results into the picture, not to get too overwhelmed with emotions. But at the same time, we're going to have to be able to listen to our gut feelings as well. There needs to be a drive there to create emotional security. And we're going to have a growth related mindset. But remembering that complex relationship issues and deeply embedded uh, personal crisis situations are blocking you from that. So that's a responsibility that you need to be able to work on. Jupiter Saturn square surely says that the luck doesn't exist. You're gonna have to work hard for luck to enter your life. On a global level, I would say there's definitely this humanitarian aid topic or the collective well-being. But there are certain type of political agreements and legal disputes that might be happening between countries, people, and so forth, and that comes from the past and kind of like reliving it. And maybe this debate pretty much started around 2020, 21, when Saturn and Jupiter conjunction went down. Um, so that is something that potentially is in the way, and we're gonna have to kind of remove that. What helps us here is actually a Jupiter trying to asteroid Lilith on 0 degree of Pisces. So it's astrological number 1183. And I would like to mention that Lilith and Black Moon Lilith and Asteroid Lilith are not the same, but they carry very similar um, um, meanings, though. But it's a different phase of Lilith's journey out of the Eden and obviously finding herself, her individuality somewhere else. So where does the kind of like the relief come from? That comes from asteroid Lilith. And it says we're going to have to maintain our boundaries. We're going to have to nurture the self. We're going to have to sometimes take into account our own needs. And we're going to have to find ways to care for others and build secure homes. Therefore, unfortunately, it also feels like there is going to be a lot of homes that are going to get washed away. Obviously, Lilith is wild. And Jupiter in Cancer is a little bit wild as well because it's running free. So I'm expecting homes are going to get knocked over. And with Saturn square, it's not going to be that easy to kind of pull those back up. Also, what helps you is when you express your raw emotions and when you are super passionate about something. And when you work towards equality and you treat everyone fairly, and they are going to start treating you fairly as well. But the growth comes through authenticity. And of course, Pisces is about healing. So healing must happen. Healing of the old wounds that are related to obsession, suppression, shame, being outcasted. Uh, and it's time to be who you want to be. So this is what helps us to kind of ease the tension between, I mean, among those three planets that are forming a T-square here. The clashes of the individual and the collective needs. I think that's one big topic here. The other thing is with Jupiter in Cancer, often it comes with self-pity and melodrama. Uh, Indulging in self-pity, it's kind of like making a mountain out of a mole because something can feel like a major betrayal, and it might be just a minor setback at the end of the day. And it's difficult to process emotions as well. So Saturn says we have to sober up. Over nurturing could be also another topic. Like, being overprotective over who we are, Saturn in the sign of Aries. And we're gonna say that I'm just doing it for your own good. But then you feel like there is a lack of individuality, lack of independence. And that's Saturn in the sign of Aries. Codependency is a big one, right? Libra, that's the sign of codependency. But with Jupiter in Cancer, we can count on the veterans. We can count on the patriots. We can count on family members because they give us a sense of security. But Saturn in Aries says you need to be your own hero. And I also feel like that attachment, Jupiter in Cancer pops up here as well. The resistance to change, clinging to the past. Changes must happen. And sometimes you're going to have to upgrade those traditions. Sometimes you're going to have to do things differently. Jupiter in Cancer is super sentimental. And I think on one hand, it's definitely great, but it looks like with Saturn, somehow it becomes a burden. And not to mention that with Jupiter in Cancer, the fear of the unknown could be a topic as well. Why? Because Cancer is very security conscious, and Saturn is the planet of fear. So you might be scared of exploring new things, having a new experience in your life. I feel like this aspect is asking us to step outside of our comfort zone or feeling super secure and then we become complacent. So then Saturn in Aries asks, where your motivation? Where is your motivation? Do you think it's good enough? You are able to be more. You are able to be the leader of your life. Don't just sit on your laurels. Or being super, like overly optimistic, meaning that you let yourself get disappointed by being misled, lied to, and so on. Or, Jupiter in Cancer is super loyal. Are you too loyal to your tribe, like to your nation, to politicians, to your family members, or are you loyal to yourself? I think that's also a huge question here. And don't get me wrong, a love towards your roots and home and family is super important. But maybe we have to be able to admit that they make mistakes as well. And now I'm going to disagree with what they did. It's kind of like, a politician makes a huge mistake, but some people will try to support them just because they are so patriotic. And that's great. But when someone does something wrong, we're gonna have to be able to, um, we're gonna have to be able to kind of admit. So, guys, I think I've been speaking for a very long time about this Saturn Jupiter square. So, so let's break it down for the 12 signs. And what I'm going to be focusing on is how Jupiter can bring you luck, especially going through the houses. With Cancer rising sign, I'm not going to be giving you too much details. I'm going to straight go into the interpretation because I did a very thorough breakdown with all the complex web of energies with Jupiter ingression into the sign of Cancer. But Jupiter is transiting your first house. So we're going to have to be optimistic. We're going to have a strong sense of self. We're going to have natural inclinations towards growth, and we're going to have to grab the opportunities. And also, in a way, we're going to have to be able to protect who we are. Now, I would say that we can become super nurturing towards others, and that might be a downfall because here we're going to have to nurture the self. In a way, not necessarily egotistical, but we're going to have to prioritize the self a little bit. And you're going to have to be able to make emotional connections with family members. You're going to have to create a safe and comfortable environment for yourself. This is giving you the chance to start fresh. This is about self-nurturing. This is about expanding your sense of identity. Yes, you can be gaining weight and, you might be struggling with your own body. And this is where Saturn also comes into the picture, who says, think about how you want to be seen. Obviously, Saturn can be a pressure. So authority figures, law, the government, and all those type of things can kind of force us to do something that is actually blocking us from the growth because we had plans and so forth. And but also it definitely calls you to act on it. This is telling you to be serious about your profession. You're going to have to figure out what you want. A profession can give you a sense of growth as well. Of course, Saturn in the 10th house is all about ambition. Be responsible for your own actions and welcome limitations, but it's going to test your career. It's going to test your public image. It's going to ask you to kind of have a long-term goal and then go towards it. This is about having to have that urge and drive to achieve something, to gain recognition, working through your fears, to be seen. Now, it feels like Oh, and then we've got Orpheus right next to Saturn as well. And Orpheus often represents loss, grief. So this could indicate a loss of a job, which is somehow forcing you to start fresh, to figure out your own talents, who you are. And also, this is definitely talking to you about that the loss and the grief can lead to finding deeper meaning and connections in the world. Maybe this is the reason why you are going to be relocating and you're going to be able to find a job somewhere else. There are challenges here. There is difficulties to face, uh, but you're going to have to prioritize the sense of well-being. And also, even your well-being can be challenged as well. Emotional well-being, physical well-being. Maybe you don't feel safe anymore. Maybe you are scared to go after your own desires. Maybe the workplace has become super demanding. And uh, and of course, Aries says we're gonna have to take action. And there is a clash here, right? And the clash could be that how am I going to be able to take care of my family if I don't have a job? But it really feels like this is time for you, Cancer, to reinvent yourself. There is Arachne there as well in an opposition to Jupiter. And Arachne is, for me, I would say that there are relationship challenges potentially in your life, or your personal growth is, or your sense of identity is somehow challenged by a legal matter, by others. You might experience a tension between your desire to grow and to start a career, but someone else is kind of blocking you. Maybe you are about to be going through a divorce. Maybe it's actually the reason why you've got the challenges is because, I don't know, the husband doesn't allow you to move or to get divorced because you would take the kids and all those type of stuff. Again, an opposition is about balance. So, of course, Jupiter in the first house says explore the opportunities, go through this self-development, and in a way, being able to cut out any type of toxic connections, or there could be a need to find balance between your individual needs and the needs of your relationship. But this oracle somehow suggests there is complexity going on within a relationship of yours. Very important to remember that relationship is not only about uh, romantic connections. So it could be with anyone. It could be happening, for example, with the family members of yours as well. Now, the Libra element, of course, represents relationship, but Arachne is actually transiting your fourth house, which is the house of family. So, at the same time, this is also talking to us about having to work through a very complex family situation. The exploration of who I am comes from resolving a very complex issue that originates from the past. There needs to be an element of delicacy here. You know, it's a delicate situation. It's a little bit touchy. Potentially, we don't necessarily want to talk about these, but we're going to have to own it. So I would say that it is not impossible to get through, but I also believe that Arachne is actually super important here because maybe Arachne also in your fourth house says that the reason why you want to be alone, or the reason why you don't feel safe, or the reason why you need safety is more of a complex situation that you think. I mean, surely it talks to us about complex family dynamics. So, a complicated relationship within the family, and then you uncover hidden secrets. Or or you are somehow in the middle of a family feud as well. Now that's possible. And then also maybe simply, your home environment becomes kind of like a home for others. So maybe I even invite a friend of mine into my home who is going through a very complex situation right now. But also, you might be just signing up for some very complex, like decorating projects. Or you love doing some creative stuff at home. Maybe you start weaving, or you do some home craft, or actually you would like to have your home business, right? Saturn is in the 10th house, and the fourth house can represent um, home businesses. And also, you like Arachne is really about feeling entangled. So you want to understand your family lineage. You want to understand your roots. You want to understand where you come from. And you somehow uncover that deception that or the lies that they fed you with. And emotional confusion is another big topic here. So, of course, potentially I cannot see things clearly. I think in this case, we have to listen to Saturn, who says you're going to have to focus on, on what you want to achieve in this, in the next couple of years. And it also can feel like that the people that I live together with are hiding something from me, or they are manipulating with me, like manipulating me with children or parents, or kind of they are playing on my emotions. I would say that it is very much about having to recreate who you are, finding that sense of happiness, finding that job that gives you satisfaction. I think this is about acknowledging your own needs. This is about expressing your creativity, kind of like figuring out the craft that is close to your heart, and in a way, definitely setting boundaries, not getting caught up in complex family feuds and dynamics, but I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on who I am and what is going to bring me growth and how I function on a physical, psychological, emotional level. Focus on your emotional foundation, gain a deeper understanding of who you are, where you come from, what makes you feel secure, and also why I don't have the courage to start fresh. If you do so, I feel like you are going to be super lucky. I feel like you're gonna be able to, let's say, relocate to a place where you're gonna feel accepted. Maybe your kids are going to be happy. Maybe you are going to be become more confident. You're gonna be able to be optimist. You're gonna be able to be optimistic, and optimism is 50% of that lucky break to come around. I think you're going to be able to create a better self-image. I think you're going to have a better mental health and emotional health as well. And yeah, so let's get started. Let's go for those new beginnings. Let's start with that new project, a new venture. Make these personal changes. It's going to bring you a lot of emotional security. You're going to feel blessed. And you can even get the blessing from your family members as well. Maybe you are even going to get lucky by being able to sell a property or buy a property. I really feel like that if you define success, and success is going to be on your own terms rather than at the terms of others, then you have got a fulfilling future ahead of you. Of course, Saturn wants you to be productive. It wants you to be work on it. It wants you to be removing the challenges, and it wants you to keep going because opportunities are on the way to you, but not all of them are going to get granted. And sometimes you're going to get a no, sometimes you're going to have a loss that leads to disappointment, but we're going to have to be able to stand up. I think it's also about building healthier connections with others, having greater self-awareness, and get rid of any type of complex situation because it's just gonna entangle you. You're gonna end up feeling trapped. All right, so that's Cancer rising sign. Next up is Taurus. We're gonna go for Leo rising sign. Maybe I'm going to be sharing the screen and then it's easier actually for each sign. Sorry about that, Cancer. It just came to my mind. Why am I not sharing the screen? So first of all, Leo, I'm not going to be breaking everything so deeply down because I did that in the first 1 hour of the video. You should be listening to that. Here, I'm just really going to be giving you what potentially you should be expecting here. So Jupiter is going through your 12th house, and the base here is that you're going to have a deeper understanding of your emotions and the unseen world. This is asking you to go a little bit inward. This is telling you to foster your inner life a little bit. In a way, cleanse out um, your subconscious a little bit, go through a spiritual seeking as well, figure out your spiritual mission. And in a way, this is giving you the opportunity to heal, to be in service to others, to help others overcome their own complex situations. And potentially, if you haven't been aware of your real fears or self-defeating patterns, then Jupiter is going to kind of start showing that to you. Now, Jupiter is squaring Saturn and Orpheus in the ninth house. And square is a conflict and Cancer represents fundamentals. So we've got a fundamental conflict here between your ideas and your belief system. And Saturn says we're going to have to structure our belief system a little bit. We can become super pessimistic with that also, or we need to be able to study something. We need to be able to pursue certain type of higher educations, learning a little bit more about your subconscious, about your self-defeating patterns, and so forth. Maybe you are very aggressive when it comes to your belief system, and then you are trying to rigidly kind of like protect your views. Or you keep running into challenges when it comes to relocation or travel, and then you don't understand why. And then we're going to have to be able to figure this out. But altogether, this is about spiritual growth. This is about being able to be compassionate, being able to be part of other people's healing journey as well. Like you are a healer, for example, but somehow Saturn in the ninth house can represent that an authority figure is taking away your healing power. So, for example, your license, right? But Saturn is in the ninth house, the house of opportunities. So this is bringing you an opportunity for learning and to maturity as well, especially if you are willing to face your fears and you are able to act on your belief systems, but by understanding the needs of others. And Orpheus is there too, which is represents music and poetry and loss and the underworld, like having to see the underworld, but we get out of the underworld somehow. So it really suggests to me that maybe you are a little bit all over the place with what you are passionate about. Sometimes you are passionate about psychology and deep foundations, and sometimes maybe you are a little bit more on the superficial things. So I also believe that Orpheus might be telling that in order for you to get to know the truth, you're gonna have to get to that underworld. And you might see some really shocking things there, and you might get really super disappointed, and you might get even frightened, but that leads to a spiritual growth somehow. We've got a spiritual journey ahead of you. We've got some subconscious experiences that you might not be able to explain later on, or you might not be able to actually even share with others because they would think that you are crazy. But also watch out because there could be that illusion there that you are looking for something perfect and then you are traveling around. And of course, it can come with disappointments because I cannot find it. This is about bringing your hidden talents to light. This is about feeling inspired, but you're gonna have to ground that a little bit because if you jump right into something, most likely that Orpheus could represent certain type of losses. Now it's squaring Arachne as well in your third house. And Arachne represents something that is complex. So complex communicational issues. I mean, this is intellectual pursuits. I would say that, of course, Libra always would like to create harmony and balance when it comes to our communication. And we are using etiquette and, we are trying to perfect something like a website. It might take such a long time to actually get going on your inspiration because you are focusing on perfectionism. Maybe actually, you might feel like that someone is undermining the way you are trying to communicate about this spiritual journey. They are trying to get you be more objective or yeah, in a way, it kind of indicates that someone might think that you are crazy in a way. And Arachne says, you know what? In order for you to have a full understanding over something, we're going to have a logical, rational explanation to things. While Jupiter says, no, it's very spiritual, it's very karmic. What if it was both of them at the same time? Right. So for me, this transit altogether indicates that you are going to be processing a lot of information subconsciously, but we're going to have to be able to make sense as well of them on a rational level because it's more complex than you think. It looks like that your belief system is going to get externally challenged by others. I think it is definitely telling you that your spiritual healing power needs to have potentially education behind it, or we're going to have to apply practical skills for it. Jupiter and Saturn together is surely have a responsible approach to your studies. Be willing to look at what you are obsessed with, what your limitations are that you have placed on yourself, of course. And if you believe in something, go with it. Do not let society to hold you down. So express who you are. But I would also say that Arachne suggests be honest, have a well-balanced communication, listen as well as talk, right? So that's the balance here. How much you talk and how much I talk. Otherwise, it's just gonna end up pretty much as someone is talking to you and then forcing their opinion onto you. So I think it comes with a lot of introspection, a lot of thinking to be done about how I can move forward. It's about gaining wisdom, and therefore you can run into a teacher. And maybe the way the teacher explained things is going to be super complex. And maybe even we feel like that we are not improving, we are not growing. Um, so it's kind of like a little bit subconsciously untangling your thought process and your belief system. That's going to be allowing you to grow. So good luck in the next 1 year. See you in my next video. So Virgo, Jupiter will be going through your 11th house. And this is telling us, and first of all, I really recommend listening to the first half of the video. It has got so much knowledge and information there. So here I'm just going to be pretty much giving you kind of like predictions and the energies to work with. But to have a better understanding of what is happening in your chart, I highly recommend listening to the first 1 hour. So when Jupiter is going through your 11th house, oh, this is a super great placement. I love it. This is the exalted Jupiter. This is a very lucky position for Jupiter. So it brings you a lot of good friends, a lot of good mentors. And this can actually set you kind of free. It can really get you going towards your long-term goals as well. So you can be finding these new supportive groups and friends, and you can create your own new family in a way. It can give you the opportunity to work online as well, and then building your own family there. You can actually get involved in communities, and then these people can nurture you and you nurture them as well. There is a reciprocated love somehow. But Saturn is squaring this. And Saturn is squaring, and it says, you know what? We've got lessons around finances. We've got a lot of debt. We've got a deep hurt psychological complex here that needs to be worked through. So, in a sense, it says, what's the point in kind of like going towards a new goal when you kind of haven't finished the old one yet? You're going to have to be transforming something around it. So you're going to have to confront your fears around control, vulnerability, and even mortality, the fear of death, the fear of kind of like leaving this life behind without achieving anything. And also, Jupiter in the 11th can be super excited about something, but Saturn potentially brings delays. And maybe you're going to have to ask money or resources from others. And then the Aries problem is that I'm proud to kind of do that. And Orpheus is there too, who made connections through music and charm and persuasion. So in a way, it feels like that you're gonna have to persuade others to kind of give you their assets that you need to be able to accomplish your goals. And some will say no. Some you will not even hear from them back in a way. But also, one person, we just need one person. And Jupiter says, I'm going to give you one person. And in a way, I think Orpheus in the sign of Aries needs to learn that, you know what, whatever I need, I don't need to manipulate in a way. I'm going to just have to be direct around about it. I'm going to have to be courageous about it. But both Orpheus and the eighth house are a little bit more on the tricky side, it's more on the manipulative side. So, but surely Saturn and Orpheus is, I want to express my deep truth. And we're gonna have to go underworld. There is no doubt about it. And potentially, maybe I want to lead others through different experiences as well. I want to cross the border with others in a way, like the spiritual border, of course. I think there is a lot of psychological exploration to do for you. You're gonna have to be dealing with losses. You're gonna have to be dealing with shared karmic experiences, and it might not be even about you. Your business might be flying, and then unfortunately the partner is struggling financially, and then I'm having to make a decision. Do I go after my dreams, or I'm helping my husband out somehow? And then we've got Arachne in the picture as well in your second house, which indicates complex relationships with money, complex relationship with aesthetics. It really feels like that you do potentially might have the talent for aesthetics or the creation of balance, but it indicates that somehow there is a complex money situation going on. Uh, so imagine that issues with the bank, with the eighth house, issues with the partner's finances. And obviously, I've got this pressure to kind of make income. And that's Jupiter in the 11th house. Now, of course, Arachne in the second house says that your sense of self-worth is more complex than you think as well. So it is coming from different angles. And on one hand, it indicates that you might be very proud of what you owe because you've got certain type of gifts here. I mean, Arachne had the gifts of weaving. So you have got certain type of gifts here also. But altogether, you are running into a certain type of like your goals are running into certain type of restrictions, and maybe we're gonna have to be doing the expansions through collaborations with others. Maybe we need people to help us with achieving our goals and aspirations. And maybe we're gonna have to kind of like think through certain type of financial challenges here. I mean, with Jupiter in the 11th, we've got a big dream here. And but we've got these shared financial obligations also going on, and we might be potentially afraid, what if we're gonna run out of money? What if this big dream is not gonna bring me enough money? So somehow this is asking us to approach it in a mature. This is telling us to be willing to work obstacles rather than kind of like avoiding them, because eventually they need to be removed. You cannot just kind of pass it, like bypass it, right? It's sometimes it takes a little bit longer to knock them over, but then we are not going to be walking into them again. I think you can achieve your goals if you get involved in certain type of partnerships and group activities. It looks like there is a loss there because Orpheus is conjuncting Saturn as well. So too much optimism can lead you to, um, or like these promises from the friends that they're gonna help you no matter what. Saturn and Orpheus says that some people um, will disappoint you. So don't take everything for granted. And it's kind of like you go through a pain, so I'm going through a certain amount of pain as well. So maybe you are unable to fully focus on your kind of like happiness and goals. There is vulnerability involved here somehow. I would also mention surely that with Arachne, obviously, Jupiter is so focused on social aspirations and future goals, but somehow it's clashing with your personal values. So, for example, no, I didn't get the healing ability to make money out of it. So again, the question there, how can I make money out of it, but not necessarily come across greedy? How much am I meant to be kind of like charging for it? But also with the second house, often we are attached to something, attached to principles, attached to possessions and objects. And obviously, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is also very sentimental. Maybe you cannot just let it go anymore that your friends borrowed money from you or you pay for them all the time at the bar and so forth, because it is leading to a loss. And Saturn says you're going to have to put a stop to it. Somehow, in a way, then this social circle is giving you an element of support, and they might even call you out to act on your own talents, but at the same time, it also shows that they are somehow, some of them are the blockage to your finances as well. So I would say that something is getting in the way here, and this is the reason why it's difficult to achieve something for you. You're gonna have to, in a way, confront the truth. You're gonna have to acknowledge that this ship has gone in a way, because you might be holding on to something for such a long time, and you're just gonna have to let it go and then start fresh. And I would say with Arachne in your second house, you are very proud of something, and maybe this is the reason why you are unable to let go. So good luck, Virgo. We're gonna move on to Libra rising. Okay, so Libra rising sign. We've got Jupiter transiting your 10th house, squaring Saturn in your 7th, and Orpheus as well, and squaring Arachne in your 1st house. Now, I'm not going to be talking about these specifically. I think you should definitely listen to the first 1 hour of the interpretations, because I give a lot of knowledge about Orpheus and Libra and what the themes are. So here I'm just going to be giving you some food for thought. But Jupiter is going through your 10th house. And on one hand, this is going to potentially bring you certain type of opportunity or luck for growth connected to your reputation, status, your public image, and work opportunities, of course. Now, of course, what we need to be able to do with Cancer, that we need to care for that work that we want to do. We are, feeling comfortable when we are appreciated for something that we do. And then if those are missing, then of course, potentially there might be a bit of a challenge here. But surely potential growth and opportunity in your public life is given here. And maybe these are related to areas such as caregiving or real estate or family business. But obviously, what gives you emotional security is when you have got kind of like the opportunity to grow at a certain place. Something that gives you comfort, something that understands that you can create a harmony, kind of like work and life balance in a way. And if those are challenging, that we can get into certain type of conflicts with others, with Saturn and Orpheus in the 7th house. So imagine scenarios, for example, that you are up for promotion. But you have got a family event to attend, for example, and so forth, and then you are unable to go for this work-related event, and then the competition kind of sweeps you off. So these are one scenario that we can, of course, imagine here. Of course, we've got this Jupiter, Saturn, Orpheus square. Let's start with that. And the square represents certain type of tension, conflict, an area where you need to work a little bit harder. So it means that Saturn would like you to work a little bit more on how you treat others and how you work together with others. And in a way, being able to stand up for something like for your goals, that yes, this is the great growth, this is going to bring us opportunities and so forth. And you don't necessarily need to be a people pleaser. Uh, this could also indicate that because Saturn here is about responsibilities and taking something more seriously. So this is telling us that we need to be able to kind of be very practical, taking seriously that opportunity that we have got ahead of us. Now, you might be experiencing certain type of challenges or limitations in your professional growth due to relationship issues. So maybe you are having arguments with your boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, and so forth, and then I'm projecting that onto work. There could be conflicts, for example, with a boss archetype as well. Of course, Jupiter gives you the desire for expansion in your career, but that expansion needs to be structured, needs to be, in a way, gradually kind of working towards it. It might require you to work extremely hard as well. And maybe it's kind of like having to choose between career advancements or how demanding my partner is. Now, Jupiter squares Orpheus as well. So, Orpheus is connected to losses, grief, but also it is often connected to musical talents too. So imagine that you've got a opponent who is whispering into the ears of your boss, and maybe that's why we can miss out on opportunities. Or surely there could have been previous losses in the past that is impacting your professional path, or you might have had argument in the past with a coworker, with a boss of yours, and then it feels like that needs to be mended or mend first before actually we can kind of walk towards that success. There is a healing to be done in the relationship department. And there is a lesson also connected to having to find a meaningful career. Now, Jupiter is actually squaring Arachne in the first house as well. And it really feels like with Arachne that there is a conflict or tension connected to how you present yourself to the world and who you are. So, scenarios that I can imagine here is that you are unable to say no. You are maybe too kind. Maybe you are too people pleasing and so forth. And they might want someone at work who cares for the business, and you do that, but also someone who is a little bit cutthroat. It also indicates that your growth, your professional growth, is somehow challenged by getting entangled in certain type of right, like relationships. So I'm going out with Johnny and the boss doesn't like it, so it prevents us from growth. Or I get somehow, like having certain type of connections with a leader as well. And that becomes a bit too complicated. Somehow Arachne represents getting caught in difficult situations that is at work, which is can potentially affect your growth. Or it can also indicate that you are up for promotion, but it is super complex. And you're gonna have to put the work in and you're gonna have to be able to learn quite a lot. I think what needs to happen here is that we're gonna have to be honest. We're gonna have to be direct about what motivates us, what we want to achieve. And I also feel like that maybe sometimes you are overly diplomatic and overly nice, and that could backfire. Or, we can be super ambitious here as well. And that ambition can just cause a bit of a complexity overall. So I really feel like for you, public image is going to be a super important topic, and I think you can achieve real good heights. But these growth and opportunities are coming with certain type of lessons and challenges, how I treat others, how am I treated, and so forth. It shows to me that you're going to have to work extremely hard. You're going to have to be able to balance out your work and your relationships. Because the partner might be pushing you kind of like to spend more time with them and so on. And then they are posing limitations onto you. And also, the actions that we did in the past, we're going to have to be able to pay for it right now. And I would also say that the way you present yourself, you're going to have to work a little bit on that. Your image can affect your growth. So, of course, it's positive and it could be negative as well. So just think about, what type of image I need to be able to present to others. By the way, Venus in the ingression chart is in your eighth house as well. So I think you shouldn't be shy, actually. Yeah, so that's Libra rising sign. Let's move on to Scorpio rising sign. So Jupiter will be transiting your ninth house, squaring Saturn and Orpheus in your sixth, and squaring Arachne in your 12th house. So, of course, Jupiter, the planet of expansion and growth and luck, is going to be triggering pretty much three houses of your chart. First of all, I highly recommend listening to the very first part of the video, um, because I have given a lot of information about Orpheus, Jupiter, Lilith, as Arachne, and so forth. So here I'm just going to be trying to give you some predictions. First of all, the growth and opportunities in your life could be coming from higher education or even a relocation as well. It also tells you that you're going to have to be able to follow a spiritual path and, in a way, spiritual studies that can give you an inner peace. It also indicates to open up your horizon to new possibilities or to new philosophies as well. You might benefit from exploring foreign cultures, deepening your spiritual understanding, going for courses, or educating something further connected to work. This is telling you not to be sitting on your laurels. It is super important that you study further because when Jupiter moves into your 10th house, this can give you a lot of visibility. Don't get too comfortable with the knowledge that you've got. It's always something that we can improve on. And also, it is giving you opportunity to kind of share your beliefs, your knowledge with others as well. Yes, it is squaring Saturn and Orpheus in the sixth house, which could indicate, on one hand, that you do have got quite a lot of work on your plate. And this is the reason why you might be struggling to kind of make the decision to go towards, your studies, for example. Or it could indicate that the limitations experience these limitations, even to relocate or the spiritual exploration, not just because of the demand of your work, but potentially health issues, or we are unable to kind of focus or dedicate time on a daily basis to those studies, and then we might be behind. So this is telling you that you're going to have to be doing something on a daily basis if you want Jupiter to be working out extremely well in your chart. Of course, this is telling you also that you might have got a very limited belief system as well. It also feels like that maybe, yes, struggling to find time for your studies, or you have got a demanding job, or you have got issues of kind of like with time management, or you have to be taking care of someone as well, potentially. And that is holding you back. Now you've got Orpheus there too. And Orpheus often is an unresolved grief, losses that we experienced in the past. So it looks like that there is this inner struggle because maybe something went down in the past as well, such as I didn't get that job or I couldn't go to school because I don't know, I had to be taking care of my parents. So what am I gonna do this time around? Same again with the travel opportunities and so forth. So on one hand, surely this Jupiter wants you to kind of have a higher understanding uh, of how to heal the self, and then doing bits and bobs on a daily basis. I would also say that the square to Arachne in your 12th house, uh, on one hand, it would show that make sure when it comes to studies, for example, that you don't do it too like complex. Let's say sentences start from the beginning, start from practical applications as well. Don't go, let's say you want to study astrology and you are a beginner. Don't start with what solar arc means. Start with the basics, explore the meaning of the signs, the houses. Sentences, do it with depth. Yes, the arachne in the 12th house potentially also can indicate that you've got these travel plans. And then somehow this is super complicated. Like, or you have got these very distinctive opinions or spiritual beliefs, and then you are getting into a topic. There is a lot of like philosophical exploration comes with that, but maybe we get a little bit confused, or we don't necessarily understand everything, or we meet this guru, and then this guru is kind of like, I don't understand what they want to do. So it looks like also that karma could be coming up that you might become very interested about. But 6 and 12 house is about habits. So you're going to have to be able to learn about the habits, thinking about habits as being a lot more complex than you think. And then those little layers needs to be peeled back. I think you have to become honest about your path a little bit. Don't try to ignore any type of issues that you might be having. Don't sweep things under the carpet. Don't postpone tasks that are too complex and so forth. Because Jupiter has got the tendency to kind of get the easy job done first. Saturn says, plan it out because it's going to catch up to you. And potentially ask for help. The 12th house is the house of help in a way. So overall, I would say this is a period of time when your worldview changes quite significantly. I think it can give you a lot of opportunities. Jupiter is the natural ruler of the ninth house. Both are connected to opportunities. But these opportunities are going to be challenged by not being able to focus, daily activities, raising the kids, having to clean up the house, all this type of stuff. You're going to have to be able to find time for that growth. And you're going to have to put the work in. And even it can indicate that you are getting frustrated by the work that you do. This is the reason why you want to study, for example. And maybe you kind of feel like that you don't have the knowledge. And previously you got rejected because of, I don't know, not having the knowledge. And then Jupiter decides, okay, you know what? You want me to study? No problem. I'm going to do that. And also, it's about really looking for meaning to life, looking for your higher truth. But somehow your subconscious, unconscious patterns, certain type of hidden issues that you might not be looking at, or self-harming tendencies are in the way. So they might need to be removed first. Remember, this is a T-square, and the T-square needs to be sorted out from the opposition point of view first. That's when Jupiter is going to bring you the growth. There are hidden stuff there that you need to be able to see clearly. That's Saturn. And then the growth is coming. So good luck, Scorpio, and I will see you soon. Sagittarius rising sign. Jupiter will be transiting your eighth house. It's mega important for you, of course, because it rules your rising sign. And square Saturn in your fifth, and as well as Orpheus. We've got Neptune there too, of course. And then it squares Arachne in your 11th house. Let's break this down. Now, I did make a very intense break or explanation of this astrological configuration in the very first 1 hour of the video. So I highly recommend listening to that. You gain a lot of knowledge about what Arachne, Orpheus, Jupiter, Saturn square is. Here I'm just going to summarize for you, combine that with houses. But Jupiter is the apex of this T square. And Jupiter is about growth. What gives you growth is if you are able to collaborate with others, for example. It is giving you the opportunity to kind of increase family assets, to increase your joint bank account with someone else, maybe it's your partner, and so forth. You can get inheritance. Your investments could be coming back. or we are learning to manage our joint finances better. Like with my partner, we've decided to buy a flat together, invest into a business, and so forth. Also, you can benefit a lot if you deepen your intimate relationships with others. Creation of emotional security, we are going to be bonding on a deeper and soul level as well. And also maybe potentially understanding your psychological complexes and you are ready to heal. It's important because Jupiter is the ruler of your body. And I know Jupiter is exalted, but in the eighth house, it is an in conjunction to the body. So something is frustrating about the body. Something can grow within the body. And also, Jupiter here says that you're going to have to explore the hidden truth of your fears, like what my fears are. You're going to have to look at some of your, in a way, attachments. Like, why am I so attached and fixated about, for example, comfort? This is telling you that something needs to be released from your body. And that is connected to the past as well. So something to do with old patterns. You are about to be reborn and you are going to be able to accept support from others and potentially you are going to be able to create a stronger bond with others as well. Now, that Jupiter is squaring Saturn and Orpheus in your fifth house. And on one hand, I really feel like that, there is this desire for deep connection. There is this desire to make changes. And the changes might need to be done through fun and sexuality, joy, or happiness, or potentially wanting to have a child, or working together on a creative project. Look at that. Jupiter and Mercury are in conjunction as well. So you and your partner are standing together, but there is a square to Saturn, and it shows that somehow the partnership topic here is challenged through intimacy or having children or wanting to have children, but it's difficult to get pregnant. Or we have paid attention to our children way too much, but we are lacking fun here somehow. We are not as creative as we used to be. Or someone might be getting romantically involved with someone else, and then it comes to light. Joy is a major topic for you coming up, and we're going to have to be able to take responsibility for that. We're going to have to prompt the partner or ourselves to be a little bit more fun. Obviously, Saturn says that we're going to have to be able to commit to this relationship. Spontaneity, I think it's a big one as well. Now, it is potentially a topic that you guys might have spoken about because Saturn conjuncts Orpheus. And Orpheus is unresolved issues, past losses that we went through. So, for example, you are worried about like getting pregnant because I had a loss of a child before. Or once I have opened up for more of a deep emotional bonding with someone, they had always left me. So there is a fear here to show our feelings. And that's the reason potentially why we might be worried to engage, to get married, and so forth. But actually, the growth comes from certain type of losses. It is helping us to move on. It is not move on, but it is somehow connects with a certain type of love, luck. Now, Jupiter also squares Arachne in your 11th house. And Arachne here with Jupiter On one hand, I would say that this shows that you have like your intimacy department is struggling due to the fact that you got involved with certain type of people. Um, or your financial situations are, potentially not growing due to the fact that a friend of yours, let's say, borrowed money from you, or being part of a certain type of a group. It looks like that we are part of a group or a person that has got kind of like quite a complex situation going on in their lives. Or the goals that I'm having is way too complex. And maybe Saturn would like you to kind of narrow it down to make it a little bit simple, or to kind of the ability to be able to see through, that complex web situation. And I would also say that there could be shady things going down in the world, in the politics as well, and that is holding you back from getting your inheritance. And I also feel like that maybe you are unable to pay attention to your friends because there is complications going on in the lives of your social circle, like your friends and so forth. So overall, this period of time really feels like that you can make good money. But for example, we're gonna have to be able to somehow um, potentially take risks. Potentially, we haven't taken risk for a long time because we are too careful. And we need to be careful because Jupiter can get really excited as well. But at the same time, it's a calculated risk. I think it's super important that you are creative in your relationship as well. We're gonna go on a holiday. We're gonna have to confront these limitations connected to certain type of past losses that we had, because maybe that doesn't allow you to be going towards this emotional fulfillment. It looks like that your financial situation is about to be changing. And this is connected somehow to the society, to what is going down in the world. Imagine that, I don't know, there's a financial crack and that is affecting my finances as well because my business is not doing too well. So this is kind of like a scenario that I can imagine here. Also, this is telling you to be choosing a bit simpler goals, or be very honest about your friends and followers. Don't cheat them in a way because then Saturn might be catching you out. And of course, potentially, we don't want that. I think Saturn is pushing you to be more financially responsible. And of course, the intimacy department, I've spoken a lot about that. So good luck, Sagittarius. Let's move on to Capricorn. Okay, let's get moving. And then let's have a look at Aries rising sign. So, Aries, Jupiter is going to be transiting your fourth house. And this shows emotional growth. This shows good fortune, somehow related to your home or family life, or maybe you are lucky to be able to relocate, for example. Maybe you are going to be able to get a larger home, or your family is going to be expanding. And that could be through birth, marriage, or adoption. Somehow you are trying to improve your living conditions and you are working on emotional security. So you could be focusing quite a lot on home improvements, real estate matters. Maybe you decide that you want to be working with real estate. Now, Saturn in your first house is squaring this Jupiter, though. And Saturn in the first house is talking to you about that you're going to have to be relying on yourself. You're going to have to take initiatives. You're going to have to be overcoming your personal limitations. It says be disciplined, focus on not like doubting yourself, express who you are. It says that you're going to have to grow up and you're going to have to grow up fast. We've got Orpheus there as well in the first house. And Orpheus was a musician, and anyway, he went down to the underworld to get his love back. So Orpheus does represent connections to the subconscious, to the spiritual realms. And it says, in a way, that yes, there is grief and sorrow involved here, and we're gonna get some no's. We potentially might try things and then they're not gonna work out. But altogether, it really feels like that you have got this potential talent that you haven't discovered yet, and you're gonna have to discover it. You have got this sense of longing to be on a journey to relocate or the journey of self-discovery. I would also say that, of course, there is Arachne in the picture as well, and Arachne is in your seventh house and squaring Jupiter as well. So it can bring you a lot of collaboration, but it can bring you rivalry as well, though. There could be a very complex relationship dynamics going on, and this is and then you don't know with that Saturn whether to kind of stand your ground because in the past you might have failed and maybe you want to walk away, but you can gain a home out of it. So imagine that you've got a legal matter going on. And in the past, I've lost. Now I don't want to be putting on the boxing gloves. But Jupiter might says that if you put the boxing gloves on, you're gonna win a house, you're gonna win the custody, and so on. And of course, this could indicate that let's say we want to move together with a partner. And but maybe we don't want to ask because in the past it was a no, but we are longing to move together with this person. And of course, there could be, unfortunately, tendency for jealousy or the way we communicate. We can kind of argue where to move. I mean, Jupiter is in your fourth house, but it does rule your ninth house, which is obviously something to do with a relocation topic. So I would say that while Jupiter wants to expand your home, your emotional security, there is a lot of self-doubt going on with Saturn in the first house. Maybe you don't feel free. Maybe you feel like that the freedom is going to come from relocation, and maybe it actually demands you to kind of get divorced. Maybe there could be a lot of responsibilities in your home environment as well, and somehow you feel restricted by that overload when it comes to, looking after family members, family obligations, or home-related duties. And then it's just limiting you because I would like to be free. I would like to go on a date, for example. So your personal needs are somehow not met. And maybe it is causing some complex situations in your relationship. But Saturn says if you work hard, then your desire to grow emotionally is going to come. You don't necessarily need to sacrifice who you are. And the fourth house is joy. Jupiter is joy. I mean, fourth house is happiness and Jupiter is joy. And that is really about finding inner peace. And in order for you to find inner peace, you're going to have to be looking at these deep-seated emotional problems. You're going to have to transform yourself. There is identity crisis situations that needs to be addressed here. And it is way overdue because this is coming from the past. I mean, of course, the fourth house is comfort. It's an emotional comfort zone. And maybe that Saturn Orpheus is trying to get you out of your comfort zone. Now, Arachne, it's in a conflictual part of your chart. So we've got conflicts going down in relationships and not just romantic relationships. It's somehow we are in a competition. Like, oh, you know what? Everyone is getting married in my family, so I have to get married as well. Somehow we are getting into a very complex partnership situation. Like it could be a love triangle, for example, and so on. Or it could be a scenario where someone is actually asking you to move together with them. And what am I going to do? Um, And also, there could be a lot going on at home, in my personal life, in my relationship, and I have to juggle between these three very important topic of of your life. So somehow the self versus family. So who am I? There is this drive for independence, but it comes together with a lot of responsibilities at home. Or, having to create a home safe environment, but at the same time, I want to be free and I want to be enjoying life a little bit more as well. And not to mention that you potentially get judged, maybe by family members, maybe by the partner, and then you're just feeling trapped. Taurus rising sign. So Jupiter is transiting your third house, squaring Saturn and Orpheus in the 12th, and square Arachne in your sixth house. Now, let's break this down. Jupiter is the focal point of the T square. So Jupiter in the third house says you can experience a lot of growth and expansion if you have got a positive mindset, if you learn communication skills, if you study something, if you are connecting with your local environment, if you speak in a way, if you kind of like put together teaching materials, if you connect with people who surround you. And it's Cancer, so you might be communicating with family members, or you are kind of like studying at home, like home-based studying. Or you can feel more secure with your immediate surroundings. But it gets a square from Saturn. And there is conditioning going down here. Obviously, Saturn in the sign of Aries says rely on the self, rely on your own power, but it's in a hidden house. So, do you know that you do have got the power? And Saturn in the 12th house also says sometimes we have to sacrifice our needs in order for us to grow. We need to face challenges related to our subconscious patterns. We're going to have to potentially learn spirituality. Sometimes we have to isolate ourselves. We're going to have to think through our life so that we can have this fresh start. There are some blocks here, fears that is hindering you from being able to express yourself. And Orpheus says that you have got certain type of talents here. Just you're gonna have to work hard with them. And Orpheus also says that maybe let's say you wanted to be a singer, you wanted to do a YouTube channel. But in the past, it didn't work out. Maybe you went for a talent competition and you got a no. You didn't win it. And that was a setback. So this Saturn and Orpheus in the 12th house represent certain type of setbacks that happened in the past, or you were lonely, or you have been lonely. And I'm scared to connect with others because what if I'm going to get rejected? And we just end up studying at home, for example, and not connecting with people because we are just scared. And then it squares Arachne as well in your sixth house. And this could really talk to you about that you are getting bogged down at work. There are some complex issues at work, and maybe it is somehow there are these collaborations going on at work, or the business partner is picky, or we are doing this refurbishment at work, we are moving the office. So there is potentially competition going down at work. Like people are envy, and we get caught with all the daily activities at work. So basically, we don't have the time to study, for example. We don't have the time to pursue something that we truly want. We don't have the time to socialize. And then we feel lonely with Saturn. We feel segregated. We feel isolated. And Saturn is the time management. So it says that we're going to have to find the time. So I would say that obviously you would like to grow your social media channels, for example. You would like to study, but it clashes with fears. It clashes with self-inhibited limitations created by you. Jupiter would like you to be optimistic that this, let's say, channel is gonna work out really well, but there is the self-doubt there, and you are creating these subconscious blockages. So Saturn says take responsibility for them, get rid of these bad habits. I mean, it's affecting your health, your mental health, and your physical health as well. Arachne is in your sixth house. So Arachne represents somehow here that there is a complex medical situation that could be going down here. And in order for you to heal, you're going to have to be on the go. You're going to have to move around. Maybe sport is a solution. Maybe a holistic healing is a solution. I would say that Jupiter in the third is about being open-minded. But Saturn and Orpheus in the 12th house really talk to me about melancholia. Or hopefully you are able to communicate about these deep desires, and there is a drive there to learn a little bit more about your subconscious matters. And this is something that needs to be done on a daily basis. We're going to have to be able to commit to it. Yes, learning abilities are your grades, for example, are impacted by the workplace, or you have got this desire to learn new skills and to expand your network as well. But let's say they always meet up at 6 p.m., but you leave work at 6:30. So by the time you get there, they kind of have made all the decisions. Hidden limitations and unconscious patterns must be integrated and worked through. And you have got a certain type of a talent here that needs to be discovered. So good luck, Taurus. And today's last sign is Gemini, because we started with Cancer. So Gemini, Jupiter is transiting your second house, squaring Saturn and Orpheus in the 11th, and then squares Arachne in your fifth house. So obviously we've got a T-square. Oh, first of all, I highly recommend listening to the first 1 hour of the video because I give you a lot of insights about this T-square. And I think you can take a lot away from it. Here, I'm just going to be giving you some pointers. Jupiter in your second house is giving you an opportunity to grow your finances. But it also says it's not going to be easy. We're going to have to grow our self-worth. We can acquire assets. We might even appreciate our assets like more. We might even get a lot of support from family. Our financial gains might be connected to properties, real estate, or family support, as I said. It's all possible. Even getting married or getting alimony from a partner because Jupiter rules your partnership department. However, it is getting challenged by Saturn and Orpheus in the 11th house. And Saturn says that we might have got some challenges here um, coming from friends, for example, or somehow you are not disciplined and structured enough when it comes to money or your long-term goals. Maybe you are not collaborating with the right people. It says be cautious about what groups you join. Maybe they are not going to allow you to express your creativity, for example. Or it says that in order for you to grow money, you're going to have to contribute something to the world, like building a community. And maybe it is also an indication that you are about to start building a community, but it's not going to be growing as quickly as you would like to. Now, Orpheus is there as well, and definitely that shows a lot of artistic and spiritual inclinations. So imagine that you would like to create certain type of like t-shirts, and then I'm gonna try to sell them online, for example. The potential is there to, in the long run, to make money out of. But maybe this is not immediate. Maybe actually it's not going to be going down while Jupiter is actually in the second house. It says that you're going to have to be a little bit more humanitarian somehow. Or maybe you are a little bit depressed because the audience, the internet is not working as well as you expected. And then I just walk away from it. And then Jupiter is not going to be bringing you the money. But also, Orpheus is very deep, very spiritual. So you might be drawn to friends who are going through this transformation in their lives or who experience losses. Or you might be impacted by the loss of a friend or a goal of yours that you haven't been able to accomplish, and then you had to have a closure with it. And then we've got Arachne going through your fifth house, and which suggests that there is a cobweb basically in your romantic life. So maybe you are about to get together with a friend of yours, someone that you have known for a long time, or someone that you went out with a long time ago, but then we started a kind of like, uh, uh, having romantic feelings towards each other. And this is pushing your confidence level, of course. But somehow it is kind of like a romantic life where it is, will he be mine, or is it just a one night stand? I mean, this person might be having, another boyfriend or girlfriend. And then there is this competition, rivalry situation going on between you and another person, and then, of course, the partner. So there could be some conflicting situation rising in your romantic life or in the way how you try to share your artistic abilities or the certain type of collaborations that you might start, and then we don't necessarily see eye to eye. How to grow that money, how to acquire the money. So overall, what it feels like is that your increased self-worth somehow is being affected by friendships, groups of people, even political situations as well, or your romantic life. So imagine an example. You've got this financial opportunity, but this might require you to kind of give up on certain type of group and humanitarian activities that you used to do. Or you have got this idea of how to acquire money, but your partner or a group of your friends are kind of like not supporting the idea. Actually, they might be completely against it. So what am I going to do with that? And surely it also says that you're going to have to be looking at your relationship with money. Or you could be using your resources to support groups of people as well. Um, or the financial gain could be actually coming from the type of emotional connections that you make with groups of people. But also, this could indicate that this group of people are somehow arguing over this opportunity as well. Or imagine that in order for you to make the money, you have to sacrifice somehow your hobbies, your travel plans. And then it could be an internal inner tension as well. Or it can feel like that if I focus on, growing the finances and the self-worth, it's gonna cost my love life. Or it's a little bit like working hard and playing hard as well. But surely it could indicate new income streams. And that might be the creative fields. With Jupiter, you need to be careful of where you put your money. You need to be a little bit careful, mindful about financial decisions, because there is definitely this urge to make more money. But you know, Jupiter sometimes shows greed. And Saturn says here that people might not like that. So just slow down a little bit. Good luck, Gemini, and good luck, everyone. This is my intake on Jupiter moving into the sign of Cancer. We're gonna be talking about Jupiter a lot more. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel because you're gonna hear about Jupiter a lot in June. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Every sign and every house, a journey starts and we allow the universe so vast and true. Astro Viktor, it's here for you.